This podcast is brought to you by WeHaulBoats.com. Did you buy a boat? Figured maybe you'd find a trailer elsewhere? Right now you might be kicking yourself trying to get your stabbing cabin moved from Florida to Jersey, or vice versa. Who knows? Maybe you got a canoe, a raft. Maybe you have a boat on a trailer, but your truck's out of commission, or it's over at the Gentleman's Club, having a Bloody Mary. Call Mike at We Haul Boats. You know what he does. He hauls boats, all day, every day, sometimes at night. Depends on your schedule, which Mike at WeHaulBoats.com works around. Sleep soundly and comforted, knowing your boat's in the hands of the best hauler in the game. Don't be silly. Go to WeHaulBoats.com. That's WeHaulBoats.com to get your quote today. Do you have a rust bucket giving you fits? A gun rusting away in the garage? Or some specialty items serving rare purposes? Collecting dust? BoShield T9 has you covered with the best protectants in the business. Put a little in my coffee every morning to loosen up the joints. Put a little on those propellers to increase longevity and surface protection. People like Boeing and NASA have been shooting stuff in the sky for years knowing there's no rust or tarnish due to the protection of BoShield T9. Give them a call. They support motorsports and are good, honest, genuine people. Tell them Boomer sent. Or head over to BoShield.com. That's BoShield.com for your industry-leading lubricants today. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, how you doing? We're back here with Offshore Live number 10 with Mr. Johnny Pop Stanch. Thanks for coming up, buddy. I appreciate it.
Good to be here, my friend.
Yeah, man. So right before we were coming on here, you were telling me about the first race boat you were ever in.
Well, you mentioned Lindsay Perry, and I said when I was in high school, and I used to go to. I lived in Long Beach Island, so I went to summer school on the island, and I heard that there were these big boats parked in Barnegat Light, and I used to take the bus all the way past my house, all the way to Barnegat, and I'd get there, and they'd be working on these, and oh my God, if someday I could just stand in one of them boats and just to hear one, I was like, my God. And I would see Top Banana was there, Bill Gazelle, because they were all about 10 years older than me.
Right.
So if I was 15, they were 25, and they were already started in it, you know?
Right.
And then I'd see them all parked out there. And I said, man, I got to get in with these guys. I used to snoop around. I'd have my pop take me down at night. And I couldn't believe it. My dad said, there's a big race coming up. It was the Benihana. And I guess it was in the late 70s. And I went up to the beach, and my God, the boats went by, and we had to wait a couple hours for them to come back. I mean, it wasn't a long course. It was 150 miles.
Right.
And we'd just sit there, just waiting. And we'd sit there, and my pop would say, you know, it's a little boring out here. Dad, these boats are coming out. They're going to come back. Sure enough, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they'd come back on the other direction. And that was it. But the beaches people would be coming just to see the boats. I mean, they were coming from Point Pleasant. We were on Long Beach Island in Holgate, and they'd actually come by there, and there were fans out there back then.
No shit.
And my idea was someday I'm going to get one of those boats, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to stand in it, and I'm going to meet somebody that has one. And, well, sure enough, 300 races later, I lived my dream. That was my dream as a kid, and it never went away. Like, just to be able to run one of them. It wasn't to run. I just wanted to stand in one. I never saw one. I was a kid. I was looking up. I'd go down to the house where they parked them and all. Bill Gazelle would be there. And when you're 15, guys are 25. They're old then. I mean, these are old guys out there. So I don't belong here, and that's how it started. And I met Billy Martin. He was like my hero. He still is, but back then, Billy go by the bounty hunter. And the boats went probably, if I had to guess, probably in a 70 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour. They'd
Right.
run, but they'd run for 160 to 200 miles. And it was different racing than we have today. Today, I could beat you in a hurry, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it does. It's not the same. Everything changed. They raced, and it was keeping your boat together for 200 miles and keeping everything working. And Peter Meyer's my age, and he had the same idea. He went for a race one time, and he took his boat and went out. And he busted it up and almost sunk. He said, "Boy, we got to do this. This is for me." Like he was the same way. Like
Right.
This is great.
You know what's funny? Everybody's kind of got that story. Like my old man, I can remember our first race with the Viper. He spent probably, I don't know, since the time I was born restoring that boat. And then their very first race in Point Pleasant, by the time they got to
Beat the
turn
hell out
one,
of it.
it was kit form. There was nothing left. The dashboard was laying on the floor. It's all destroyed.
We got to get this thing fixed.
Yeah, man. The next day, they were putting numbers on it and painting a name on it. I'm like, you destroyed the thing. You want to do that again? It was beautiful.
Yeah. And, that's the way it is. But it was different. You couldn't actually watch the boats because they only went by once every, and that's why some of the old guys don't like what we do. I mean, I don't care as long as I'm racing, but they don't like what we do. They went out and fought the elements. They would go out in the ocean. I mean, I would get lost. I used to, when I first started racing, I got lost. I was in Key West and I missed my checkpoint and we were going to Cuba. I mean, we had nothing to do with the race. We were just worried about getting home before the
Right.
sun set, so we knew where we were going.
Right.
And then after that, I used to follow Bill Gazelle because he knew how to use the protractor and all that stuff.
Right.
We didn't know how to do that. We just had a boat. That
Well,
was
and
it.
that's what's funny because, like, my green boat, we ran 3 all the time, and people would be like, "What's the third guy doing?" I'd be like, "That's my navigator," and they'd laugh at me, And I have to explain, back in the day, the navigator was just as important as the driver or the throttleman.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, he was more important. Like getting
Yeah.
to your checkpoint because you didn't
Well,
see the next one.
And it's funny because we went through a couple of stages, right? So we had like when I first started racing, we didn't have a ton of boats in every class. We had 4 or 5 in every class. As it kind of evolved, my middle guy, whoever that might have been at the time, whether it was Ryan Grauer or Matt DiGiacomo or whoever it was, it turned into not where we were going, but who's around. It helped me with not taking my eyes off of what was in front of me,
Right.
and he would just tap my leg. And for people watching this at home, a lot of what we do is hand signals. So people don't know that. I mean, people come up and ask, well, how do you guys communicate? Me and Anthony always had an intercom, so I could say to him, I'm going tight, I'm staying wide, I'm going to cut through the middle here, or whatever
Right,
the case
right.
was. And then I would hit Matt. I'd give him a little, elbow, and he'd look around and he'd hit me like this. He hit me like one time, like there's 2 over there, or he'd hit me and be like, there's 2 over there, and I'd be like, okay. And then it got to a point where we got so good at it, he'd be like, listen, there's 1 over there and they're 2 lengths back, and there's 1 over there and they're 3 lengths back. And I'd be like, okay, I got room going into the turn. And people were fascinated by that because they just think as a driver, you're good enough to just know, but you don't.
You don't know
You're
anything.
looking out of that little square.
Right.
You don't know. I mean, not all the time, and especially not when you get into the crazy traffic of the smaller bracket classes.
Back in the day, we didn't have a GPS. I mean, you used your compass, and you would meet the people at the buoys. You thought you were racing somebody. You knew they were there, but if you were a couple degrees off, when you got to the buoy, that's when you see everybody coming together
Right.
because it's just the way it was. And
Right.
This stuff here, I love it. I have a TV screen with a GPS, and arrows pointing which way to go. It's
Right.
like, I could do this forever.
So what's the major difference? Because and without making it like almost like an argument, because like I never. Anytime I ever get around anybody who was able to race, the late 70s, the 80s, or even the early 90s was still
Right.
pretty long distance runs. I mean, really, almost to the 2000s, they did long runs, and I find it hard to have that conversation with anybody from back then. Like, what made it so great? Because they, the notion is that what we do today isn't as good as what they did back then. Not what was better, but what made it great. What was cool about that style of racing?
I guess it was just keeping the boat together. I'll tell you a story. I had just got my boat, and we led for the first lap at Point Pleasant. I was first racing my new boat, and we led for the first lap and blew both motors. So we went back, and I'll never forget it. Bud Millenhausen and Billy Martin were sitting at the bar having a beer. And I said, how you like me now? You see me? Billy Martin turned around and said, you know, Mr. Stanch, all the glory's at the end of the race. And ever since then, I never forgot what he told me. And it was the truth. Like, yeah, I was a big shot, but nobody knows but me. I mean, but he said all the glory's at the end. Like, you got to finish. Because he had been racing in races that 200 miles. And this was in early 80s. I was stupid. I didn't. I just had to beat the guy. As far as I was concerned, I beat you.
Right.
No, I didn't beat anybody.
Right.
I blew both motors.
Right.
I blew both motors.
And there was a real talent to that.
It's incredible. I mean, just to keep everything together.
And like today's throttleman, your skill level's based on your almost your judgment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like where you put your driver, how hard you put your driver in there, how you throttle through the bump. It's almost like technical skill today. Yeah. Back then, you had throttlemen that could actually prolong the life of your equipment. Yeah. You know, you watch those
way
old.
Different. I mean,
you watch the videos where like Rich Lors is in the helicopter talking about Ciceni, and he would make mention of the magical throttle arm of Bob Ciceni, and it wasn't. You'd still hear him wing them. You'd hear the.
Yeah, but they used to watch the oil temperatures.
Yeah.
Stuff that I don't even see now because I'm so busy looking at the short course. You had to watch your oil temperature. When it came up, you had to get out of it. And, it made all the difference in the world.
Right. Hang on, Pop. We got a...
Is this a senior citizens club?
We got a surprise entry here.
Pull over, old man.
Offshore 10 just turned into Stanch and Smitty.
Oh, we got the big shot here now.
That's it.
Big
now we got
to
everybody act natural. The president's here.
Don't tell them what we were talking about earlier.
Hide the beer. I'm here.
Just one thing with the mics, guys. Just make sure you have them close up to your face so we can hear you all.
Okay. You got headphones there?
Yeah.
All right, man.
I can
Live.
check this out. This is cool.
Welcome to the show.
I've been watching people coming in and out of here for months. I wonder what was going on back here.
I was trying to convince Pop this was really a radio show. He thought I was selling all his parts out the back door.
Well, you got all these hoodlums coming in and out of here.
Especially this guy.
Yeah.
Who let
and he
him
showed
in
up
here.
with a pickup truck. I had to count all the engines out there.
I saw him taking pictures back at a purple boat earlier. But before Pop came in, you were telling us, what was amazing to me when you see those old videos run, or when you see them on YouTube, they come up every once in a while, and you'll see the old battles of Predator and Island Runner. You'll see a lot of Ciceni and Kramer's, a lot of famous videos there. But it's so interesting to me. Like Rich doesn't come over top of the boat and say, "Hey man, this is lap 2 and Warpath is out in front." It's like mile 67 and they got 40 more to go.
Yeah, we're halfway through it, and we're at 75 miles in. We're halfway through the race, and that's the way it was. If you watch a race like Peter Hidalgo, the American Dream, I mean, they were small blocks. There were small blocks in those cats, and they'd run 115 miles, and they were running 100 miles an hour. I mean, so you can't miss with a small block when you're running that kind of speed for that long a time. I mean, you can get away with it a couple times, but you had to be good. In other words, it's altogether different. We didn't have rev limiters like they have now that just back the motors down. I hold it on the wood all day long. You couldn't do that back then.
Right.
The motors were twisted. They just, it was a different era.
Right.
Really, like Earl Lanier and those guys, but they were great. They were unbelievable.
What was like the leading trick? Like today, you'll see a team come through. Like, for instance, right now in Superstock, it's Sean Torrente. Mm-hmm. Nobody can figure it out. How's he getting around the course so fast, right? What was the trick back then?
You had to finish.
Yeah.
It was all about finishing because you wouldn't break trying to beat a boat that wasn't going to finish, and you knew who was going to finish and who wasn't.
Right.
And the teams that were going to finish, they were the only boats you had to beat.
Right.
The clowns like myself and Jeff Millenhausen and Bud, we weren't going to finish. Everybody knew it.
Right.
Nobody cared if we were out in front because you couldn't run a boat that hard for 120 miles.
Right.
They let them go. They're going to, it's going to. Wow.
Right.
How long is that going to last?
And what you hear a lot too is, and you mentioned Gazelle. Like you hear a lot of the guys from back then talk about, I would just follow Bill. Yeah. And was that a lot of it too? Understanding the navigation.
Well, I didn't want to get lost. He was a tricky guy.
Yeah.
He'd lead everybody down the wrong way. Stop and open the engine hatch like he was broke. They'd all go by. He'd drop the hatch and go the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
He was
He's a crafty old
He
man.
was a very
Right.
sharp racer, very sharp. I mean, I learned a lot from those guys. I mean, they were just, his boat was never the fastest boat. Never had the fastest boat. Even Billy Martin
Right.
never had the fastest boat. But he was always in there at the end, and that was the difference. It
Right.
was definitely the difference. They were always there at the end.
Right.
Hang on one second. Both of
Sure.
you guys, just straighten your mics out towards you. They turn. You don't have to worry about breaking them.
Oh,
There you
we're
go.
worried about etiquette now? Okay.
There you
How's
go. Boom. No, it's just that it doesn't pick you up if you're over here.
that? Okay.
It only picks you up right in front of you.
Sorry.
But so I sorry, got me off track there. The one thing that I was curious about. So you started when?
I started when I saw Lindsay Perry building that boat. I used to go after summer school and watch them look at what they do today, and that's pretty much Bud and Jeff Millenhausen, which was Lucky Strike. It was Indigo, but they took me for a ride. And I thought, this is unbelievable.
Right.
I got to get one of these. And that was late 70s, early 80s.
And that's Harvey Cedars?
I lived in Harvey Cedars, yeah.
Right.
And they were in Barnegat. Lindsay Perry and those guys were down in Barnegat.
Right.
And they had a little glass shop, and that's all they did was work on boats.
Because the running rumor is that he built, he went down and built that boat, or his, I guess the first one was he built that down on Thunderbolt Row. I guess he took a team of guys down there and laid up the first, lightweight cigarette is the running rumor I've heard
Right.
about him.
Right.
So I'm trying to work a deal right now to get him in here to tell some of those stories.
Oh,
man.
he was real. The Indigo boat that we ran was a 30-foot Scarab. That was a fire job, and it was totaled, and he totally rebuilt it. Then he built a boat called Runaway, which was a single-engine A boat.
Right.
And but he really built a boat. Like he would be in there in the middle of the night. We'd go down there. He'd still be there. We couldn't peek through the windows. I was like, when's this guy going to go home? But they were all that dedicated. And Gazelle would come. I'd always see Gazelle with Great Adventure was there, and Top Banana. They were all. Those guys would work on.
We
their
need
boats.
some of that back. Man.
Yeah.
Especially here at the shore.
I can't wait to really. When you think of what we would. All year, I would work just to race a couple times a year. I mean, you'd work on the boat all year.
Right.
And you'd only had a couple races. I mean, we ran the Northeast. I guess it was probably 3 or 4 races in the Northeast, and that's when I met Peter Meyer and them. But there wasn't a lot of, we couldn't travel all over the place and
Right.
do all that. But,
What's pretty funny while we're on the topic is, speaking of Harvey Cedars, you two grew up,
Yeah.
3 houses away from each
yeah,
other?
thank God I didn't meet him then.
He stole my hubcaps.
Thank God I didn't meet him then.
Yeah, we were talking
We
one day.
wouldn't have made it. We would have never made it.
We realized we grew up on the same block. I'm
Yeah.
like, really? He goes, yeah, I was a lifeguard on the beach. I'm like, oh, that's where all the girls went.
No, we were a couple miles apart.
No,
I-
same block.
Yeah.
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 So the word on the street is there was a pretty fast hydro stream there.
That's what I used to run.
That's what I heard.
And we used to be able to run them after the high-speed garvies. We'd go up and race them after the high-speed garvies. First,
Right.
I had a GW Invader. They were like a 13-foot. We'd race them, and then I grew up through a hydro stream.
Yeah,
And
I heard there was a 14-foot hydro stream that nobody could catch back then.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a lot of fun. But then when I saw those big boats, that was it. And
Yeah,
I got to get me one of these.
So you go from that to the Panther, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, you ran something else first, right? A white, green, purple.
Hustler. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran the Hustler. That was after that. That was with Michael Fiore.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you had the Panther first.
Yeah, and I ran with Indigo with Bud and Jeff Millenhausen.
Right.
And they also had that was before I had my Panther. They also had, they had an A boat. I forget what it was. It was Lucky Strike. They ran the 47 Apache.
Right.
They had the 47 Apache with Phil
Right.
Mashinsky. And
Which
So-
today, I think, till this day, that's the best video. Is that video of
that's
Lucky Strike
crazy,
going out of Key West?
crazy,
They're
crazy
showing the big
big.
cats running, and we'll throw that. Actually, can you find that? Look up Lucky Strike in Key West. There's one really famous video. It should be pretty easy. But that video, they're showing the big cats running, and
And he only had like 600 horse. He had triple 600 horse motors. It didn't have big power.
Oh, shit.
Boy, but it ran. Boy, when that water got
talk
thick,
about somebody that wasn't worried about finishing the race.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Well, they just once they get out in that bump, they get a little air under them, and they're
man.
gone.
That's a crazy video because
Great video.
those cats that they're running against, it's not like they're slouches.
No.
You know.
But that thing, and he was able to run whatever speed the boat would run. He could run it in that big water.
Right.
Like those guys couldn't believe it. Like, how could this guy be running with 600 horsepower? They had giant motors with all unlimited. I mean, Popeyes had 4 motors. All those guys
Right.
had 4 motors.
I love it too, man. When you see those old videos, and the logic is like, it won't go. Well, let's just add another big block.
You
cracks
watch
me up.
like Ali Veet. If you've ever seen Ali Veet run the Apache, it's incredible. It's absolutely insane.
Try that second. No, yep.
That's it. First one.
Is it the first
And
one
then
there?
Nishinsky's 47.
Try that. I'm thinking of a. Let me see if I can find it
That's it.
for you. Yep, this is
That's
it.
And they're off. Green flag, green flag.
Give me a little volume on that, babe.
Right now they're saying, we're bad, we got this.
I got it.
He was a diamond miner from Ike Batista. He owned diamond mines. I had a gas station. This guy had diamond mines.
I think all these boys had some form of diamond mine. Don't worry. More like a diamond pile. The sound of that Apache as it comes by these cats when it enters the frame is unbelievable. You might have to just scan through the video a little, Hunter. Actually, it should be coming up any minute now.
Yeah, I think I've seen
There
this a
he
couple
is.
times. Yeah. Well, they're getting out to the bump now.
Yep. Yeah, just slide, keep going a little bit. Don't click, just, yeah.
South America. On the outside, we got number 50, Team USA, Kurt Russell. He's putting a move on him right now. Whoa! He's on the hole.
God, I love this.
Yeah, don't you? You can watch it all day long.
I think that was it. Lucky strike.
Go
that's it.
back a little bit, babe. A little more. Click on that right there. See what happens.
Yeah, you see
There
this
you
guy
go.
slow down. That's it.
Look at that thing.
Bye-bye, movie star. In the words of Reggie.
Look at that, man. Nothing runs like those.
What do you call those catamarans, Nick?
Litter boxes.
Litter boxes, that's right.
I am not a catamaran guy for those of you watching at home. My favorite boat in the whole world is that one right there. Actually, I'd prefer one about 6 feet shorter.
But these were 50-foot
You can
cats.
pause that.
Well, you
honey.
know, there's one guy that still has one. Maybe you could talk him out of it. And by the way, Bobby Oliver, happy birthday, buddy.
That's right. Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy
Yep.
birthday, Oliver.
Man, what I would do to have that wild man back in the sport.
no, we're good.
Yeah, we're better off. That's for sure.
We won't talk about those stories.
Man, what a wild man. But yeah, I mean, it's just so cool to me that all that stuff kind of originated up here. You know, a lot of them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and so like you there growing up on LBI, just a surfer kid on the beach, and that shit goes by. That must have just been life changing.
It,
You know,
it really was. Like, it was, I didn't care about anything else. That was it.
Right.
I went to work. I said, I'm not stopping. I got to get
Right.
one of those. And it was,
So a lot of people watching this won't know the classes. So like when you say A, B, you know, like do you remember what the classes were when you
yeah,
started?
they were A, B, C, and that's what it was back then. And they weren't fast. I think the Indigo went probably 60 mile an hour.
Right.
65 maybe. They weren't that fast. I don't know what your Mary Kay boat. What did that used to run?
Probably right around there, 65,
Yeah,
70.
that
Yeah.
would run. That was always running.
Yeah, they were just small block TRS packages,
Right.
nothing crazy.
Right.
But they had-
Transmissions, the whole nine.
Right. They had to hold together for over 100 miles.
Right.
And so it was a long race at 60 mile an hour.
But what's interesting is and not that power was easy to come by back then. I mean, I would assume it was pretty hard to build stout packages,
Yeah.
But to look at the packages that was a Class M, which they were what, 283s?
No, they were small blocks, 327s, 350s.
Yeah. So even at that, I mean, what were they making? 500 horse?
You weren't getting 500 was hard
Tops.
to get out of a small block.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at the speeds and the racing you guys were doing, and it's just as cool as it is today on those minimal packages.
It was very cool. It was when you see the boats when they got into the what were they called? D'Elia would run the modified boats, and they had big small block power, and I mean they were big power. I think they were the Buick motors with the NASCAR heads and all on them, and they were.
One thing I remember is they turned a lot of RPM.
They would run. They would twist $8,000.
Yeah.
They would twist eight, and that became racing when those guys started running. They'd all run the same speed. They were all the Shadow Cats and the Chris Cats. I mean, they were just amazing. They would just hold together for 100 miles, and
Well, some of them.
some of them, yeah. But no, it was amazing. You'd
You
hear
might
him
have
go
sank
by.
one.
You hear him go by, and you'd say, "There's no way a motor could hold up to that." I mean, there was probably 10 of them that used to start with JD and American Peter Hidalgo, and all those guys would run, and they would run. I mean, they didn't play games, and the motor they stayed together.
Right, and that wasn't modified, was it?
That was
modified.
That was M class. And they had, I guess, some outboards could run with them, but they eventually couldn't. They just couldn't hang in there. They
I mean, and it's funny you say that because I've seen a lot of pictures actually lately of like the triple engine skaters and the quad outboard skaters, but it didn't seem like they could hold up.
They couldn't hang. Then they made that the P class, where you have the triple. That became P1.
Which would have been like where Jason Saris used to race.
Yes,
Right. It's so cool, too, to see some of with today's technology, you just scroll through like your Facebook page and come across like Styling running back in the day with Jason when he's, 35 and there, just a young guy. You know what I mean? It's crazy because you don't ever put that into perspective when you look at the sport today, like how long some of you have been doing it. I mean, it's like Billy, you mentioned Billy Martin here in the beginning of the show, and he's a guy that I particularly admire because there's a guy that raced the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then even all the way up to 2006 when we put together that Triple Crown. And he came and kicked Augie's ass in Class 4. Yep. So there's a guy.
He raced all over. I mean, he raced out of the country. He went to all of them.
But how cool was that to see him come from that style of racing and then to come to our kind of short track, you know what I mean, spectator-friendly style of racing where it's dive bombing turns, it's Dover Downs. It's not like what you guys were used to.
I'll tell you what's cool is to be able to have somebody like, they were my idol. Billy Martin was my idol. I just wanted to be like Billy Martin. And then to actually meet him and become his friend is like, wow, who it's like reading Rocky Balboa or something.
Right. And you know what's crazy is a guy like that where, you take a 10-year-old me running through the pits who he don't know me from nothing. That guy took me under his wing like it was was his job. He had to do that. And it's so cool because I had Christian DiColo in here from Battle Wagon Boats last week. And we were actually talking about Billy, and same thing. He's got a story from back in the day where Billy took him in and helped him out. And Billy's just such an awesome guy, man.
No, he's a rare find for a friend. He really is. Like to be able to be friends with your hero when you were growing up, I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. So one thing that's cracking me up is that picture. Oh shit, the picture's hiding behind this curtain behind me. I had a picture ready because I knew Pop was going to come in and join us for a little bit. I've got a picture of you navigating for them down in, fun. I think it was Marathon, Florida.
The Indians are coming. The Indians are coming.
They wouldn't listen to me. I said, I'm telling you. And it was who was it? What's his name? The motor
Tyler.
builder.
Crazy Tyler.
Tyler Cricket, I call him. Tyler Cricket's coming. They were looking at me like I'm out of my mind. It's like, there's no way he could catch us. I think he was in a single engine.
Oh, Nick, we're running along. This guy over here, he's spinning around that navigator seat like a top, right? If he'd have turned one more time, he would have pulled the kill switches out, right? The Indians are coming. I'm like, what are you talking Indian? You know how it is. You're intense. Like, what are you talking about Indians? Look back.
He was right there. Nobody would turn around. Nobody would listen to me. I'm telling you. I'm a real boat racer, guys, and he's right there. He's right there. I said cricket. He said, "Who?" I said, "That cricket guy."
You know, you talk about the old open boats, like racing back in the day. The most fun I ever had offshore powerboat racing was the old open Viper. You know, even like with this guy, Navigator, and I don't know how many different Navigators we had in there. We take them out just to try and scare them to death, you know. But that was fun, you know,
Yeah,
a lot of good
It
times,
was
you know.
great times.
What happened with the guy that was trying to jump out of the boat on you?
Oh, man. I think we went through like 20 Navigators in a row. Nobody came back for a second ride. So.
Everybody thinks they wanted. I could do
Yeah,
that.
I could do that. I can hang on. So I forget who the guy was, but I think it was Atlantic City. We're running along, and it was rough, you know. And we're just, you know, his brother. He just loves to sail that thing, you know. So we're running it and running it and running it. We get down maybe 2 laps to go. We get down to turn 1 and 2. And the guy tries to jump out the side of the boat at about 70 miles an hour. Figured it was safer jumping out at 70 than to run 2 more laps. You know? So I caught him by the back of the life jacket and pulled him back in the boat. I said, "You just hold on. You'll be fine." He's like, "No, it's not fine." I said, no, it's going to be fine. We'll make it.
Well, and for people that don't understand when we say that old Viper, that boat started in Class 3, okay? And then my brother was a little bored in Marathon.
Yeah, it was Marathon. Yeah.
Started trying to run down the helicopter. And in the process of doing so, broke out so bad that Carbonell moved him up to Class 2. So to put that into perspective today, they took a 32-foot Viper that was running Class 3 at a reasonable 90 miles an hour and made them race Class 2 against Oliver's 47 triple-engine Apache.
No, this guy.
This guy's 42 Canopy.
Yeah, I had 1,250 horse blower motors.
And we had you, too.
How do you like me now, Smitty?
We had you till the
I
last lap.
swear to God, I kept saying, let's just, he can't keep up his pace, and he kept it up for the whole race. So,
We were in North Carolina.
Yeah.
We're down to the last lap, right? We had him, right? And I'm going to Junior. Here he comes, right? So Junior got a little too happy with the happy buttons and got her a little too loose.
when he started flopping around, I said, "We got him. We got him." It was crazy. I think Haggard was in the boat with you.
Oh, yeah, crazy man.
John Haggard was in the boat with him, and he just started wiggling around. I said, "We got him, Nick. Get inside. We got him."
Crazy Hagen.
But
Crazy
he had
Hagen
me
came
for the
back
whole.
from.
He had me the whole race in a 32-foot Viper with regular. I had 1,250 blower motors. I was trying to turn up the boost.
We could get in and out of the corner so quick. We'd get away from him, and then he'd run us down again. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that boat did that to a few people. Nigel Hook's probably still scratching his head from that Pickwick, Tennessee run.
Remember that one? That was crazy.
That boat, you know, the guy that I saw run the best against that boat was Walter Collins.
Yeah. With
that 30 sup fin of his.
Yep.
And it's funny because that particular type of boat, those sup fins to the oh, I lost something in my mic there. You still got me?
Me too.
Still good? My mic's falling off the desk here. But anyway, we'll just edit that out. So the best boats I saw run against that thing were Walter Collins with his 30-foot sup fin. And it's funny to me, when you look at the style of racing we do now, those are really the best boats for what we do now.
Yeah.
You know, the straight bottom conventional Vs, the bracket class stuff, those are king shit.
Yeah.
Look at Johnny and Jason with that Cobra. I mean, it's just the old school race boats work great for our applications today.
Sofer's boat, that 38 cigarette. I mean, it's great. I can't believe how that thing gets around the course. It really, really works.
Yeah. You know what's funny about the bracket boats? Nobody realizes it. They think that, you know, those are the little guys out there, just like the opening act for the big guys. Those little boats have more horsepower in their starter motors than these spec boats have in their engines.
Yeah.
You know, it's really gotten out of control.
It's wild. It really is wild.
It is, man. Even the Class 7 guys, you watch them run, and you know, some of those guys are running the same motor Superstock's running on those little 21-foot outboards, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's pretty neat.
It is. You know what's cool about it is I raced there for a lot of years, so I'm biased, but the cool factor to me was like our jump from Class 6 to Class 5 when we realized, you know, we were 8 feet short. We were, you know, we're a little outmatched here. We just came home and put more horsepower in it. And we were right back in the game, you know, and it just kept it fun. You know what I mean? There was less of the arguing and the cheating stuff, and that stuff dumbs everything down. It dumbs it down for the fans. It dumbs it down for the competitors. The bracket class stuff is just so nice and easy.
Well, there's no rules.
There's no rules.
Just don't go too fast.
You know, it's so cool. And you know, like, you got to get a really lucky day for, like, like our race there in Morehead City. There's so many of those pro stock Vs that take the green flag, but by lap 2, you're in a straight line. And it's set up from there, right? And it's what propeller you pick that day, and what you watch a bracket class race. That's war for 8 laps.
It's war. If I was lucky enough to get ahead of Smitty, I couldn't let him by me again, or you lose. I mean, it's that simple.
Right.
I mean, you let him by, and you're done.
Right.
And
Well,
that's the difference.
You might have let me by once or twice.
The cool thing about today versus back then, we started off with that, is I was always curious what back then, how it related to now. The cool thing that I've noticed from now to then is you had manufacturers involved then, right? So a lot of people were able to have access to new equipment, good equipment. You
the
know,
Merc Cruiser truck was, you know, those motors. I don't know what they cost that used to run in the Shadow Cats and the Chris Cats. I mean, those motors to run all day long at 7,800 RPMs. I mean, they were no joke. Those were monsters. And
right.
They were, you know, but nobody could afford that. I mean, if you had to run them now, even by today's standards, none of the guys that race with us could afford to campaign one of those boats.
No,
you couldn't do it.
No, and you look at, like, today, where, like, Superstock's kind of elevating, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gone through this evolution in the last 5 years, where it kind of was ushered in with Gary Blue with his old Doug Wright, which is now WIA LPC.
LPC.
And it kind of started with that, and then the next Barnstormer was Shadow Pirate, and the next one from there is now the SRT boat, Sean Torrente, and or STR, sorry, and it's just interesting to me to watch. Like, when you look back, you see all the same boats. Like, I have a video on my phone that I'll try to get up for us in the podcast room here of Atlantic City, a green flag with probably 12 wide Apaches. All the same boat, all the same power, all the same. Like, that is cool. Don't get me wrong. But you look at today, and look at Sean Torrente's new Doug Wright off of, like, Ryan Beckley's Skater. It's like, that's a spaceship compared to this thing, you know, and it's just so cool today with all the stuff we're able to dial into with our race pack and you know, Mercury tech support on site and everything else, that you can take Ryan Beckley's Skater from then and race it against Sean's boat now. All Beckley needs is 3s, 4s.
Right.
And he'll, you know, Beckley, I mean, he's the current world champion for a reason. You know, that's Englewood Beach on Sunday is never a walk in the park.
No.
It's like we planned that. Isn't that funny?
It was crazy.
It's like we got a button.
I mean, nobody gave it to him. He earned it.
He earned that, man.
Earned it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll figure what Gary Blue. I mean, it wasn't like there was no competitors there. I mean, Ryan had to go get that, man. Yeah. And it's just cool to see. You know, it's just cool to see how today how competitive everything is. You know,
no
even
question.
with all this different tech. You know. When you look at like Torrente's boat off of somebody like Beckley's, you immediately notice, like, the deck, right? But when you see that thing go up in the air from the crane area, it's like, man, that's artwork.
It's a work of art.
Yeah.
There's no question about
you
it.
You can cut your finger on his lifting strakes. It's
Ryan
insane.
Beckley's one of those guys that the next generation will be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're sitting here talking about the Billy Martins and
that's Beckley.
I mean, Ryan's just. I don't remember a race that Ryan wasn't there.
Yeah. Absolutely,
and he's a historian. I mean, he's loves the game.
Yeah,
and I respect Ryan for that. I mean,
he reminds me of me when I was young. I was the same way. I wasn't boat racing, but I was there. You know, I was looking around, snooping around, see what this guy's doing.
And you know what's funny? If you ever have a question about anything in boat racing, just ask Ryan.
No,
he knows. He's an encyclopedia, man. And
no, he asked me. I didn't remember when I sunk in Medicine Man, and he got, 1990 Seaside. Wow, I didn't know what it was, but he loves the sport, you know. And
you know what's cool too about Ryan is when you get in those conversations with him about stuff, whatever it might have been, like you sinking in Medicine Man, right? That leads to like 10 more things that spark in his head. Yep. You can just sit and listen to Ryan talk for 3-4 hours. He should do a podcast.
How about what's his name? Wait a minute. Who ran it? OPA then? Who was
Kurt Berger.
No.
Oh, before that?
No, I'm trying to think. Who picked me up in a medical boat? And I didn't realize it until 20 years later. When we sunk in Medicine Man.
Oh, I was out there.
Who the hell was it?
I was out as a medical boat that day. I don't know who picked you out, though.
Somebody picked me up. I'll think about it. But 20 years later, he said, "Were you in Medicine Man?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I was the one that got you guys out of the water." And I'm like, "Damn." Patnoid, Dave Patnoid.
Oh, yeah,
Dave
Big Dave.
Patnoid.
Big
And I
Dave.
met him, 20 years later. He said, "I didn't know you were in that boat." And he picked us up. We couldn't see land. I mean, we were out there pretty good. And he picked me up. He says, "I'd have left you there." He said, "If I knew it was you."
That was the same year, I think, Rip and Tear came apart, too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Rip and Tear ran ping pong balls in the front of the boat. In case the boat sank, the ping pong balls would, dissipate
Keep
the
it
water and
floating,
keep it
right.
afloat. What he didn't realize is when you blow the deck off, those ping pong balls were all the way down to Cape May. They were everywhere. What a mess. I don't know where he got all those ping pong balls.
How did they? That's something too that you look at what we do today with the safety so confined to that. I mean, it's if we run a 4-mile course, you're talking about mile and a half straightaway. So if you really think
Back
about the
then,
area,
You didn't see a boat.
How
didn't
did
see a
you collect-
helicopter. You didn't see anything.
Right. You were just out there on your own.
The helicopter came by and we flagged them down.
Right.
We were all in the water. The boat was gone. The boat sunk.
Right. Yeah.
And,
The issue today is the speed. You could back then. I mean, if it was a 100-mile race course,
I still had I saved my cigarettes so they didn't get wet. I grabbed them off the dash because I knew I was going to be there for a while, and the bolster stayed floating, so we stayed, stayed there holding onto the bolster.
Right.
Until the helicopter came, and then he brought a safety boat, which was Patnoid came out and got us.
Jesus, I hate to be towed in from 50 miles out to offshore.
No, they just sank it and brought you back.
That's true.
There's a lot of old race boats out there.
Yeah, man. Well, how about that story with John Carpinell's boat they found over in Europe, right?
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is you could still read the name on it when it washed up. That was some good paint.
Yep, they found the boat in Europe. Yeah.
What was that called? The installer, I think, right?
I think
That was the name
so.
of his boat? I
Yep.
think it was.
I think it was, yeah. Pretty wild shit, man.
It really is, and every time you tell a story, there's another story that comes back.
Oh, man.
With
You know,
every
that-
story, there's another one.
That's been the fun of all this through the years.
Well,
you know?
it's not. I mean, I love to race it, but it's meeting guys like you and Augie and just everybody, Peter Meyer and.
We ever going to tell anybody about that park bench?
No, I'm not ready yet.
Not ready
I'm
yet?
not ready yet.
All right.
Nah.
That's for another story.
But that's the truth. And I mean, where do you get friends like us? Really,
That's as
we're
stupid
very
as us.
fortunate. We're really a bunch of idiots.
That's
All a collection of us.
We're just all friends, so we don't tell each other.
Really, it's,
Well, what they say, a boat racer brain has a lot of value because it's really not used
It's
very
never
often.
been used.
Yeah, so we're all of the same mold.
You know who actually told me that joke was Louie, your partner. That they walked up to the one brain in the case, and they said, "How much is that one?" And he said, "That's $1 million." He said, "Really? Where'd that brain come from, doctor?" He said, "What's that brain over there?" "That's $10 million." "Where'd that one come from?" "Boat racer. Never used it."
Low mileage item.
it's like new. Yeah.
Cracks me up, man. It's Louie to a T. You do have one of the coolest partners in offshore racing.
No question about
Dude,
it.
I was just I was doing a little editing from our 2019 season, and I came across the video of Fort Myers when I got to run with Lou. And dude, you're so lucky, because I saw the video of us on board, and I started laughing because things come back to you. He's singing rock and roll hoochie coo on the second lap, and he's like, "Where's your old man?" I said, "Back there." He goes, "Good, keep him there." "Hey, that's my old man."
I'm racing with Louie, and I finally get ahead of Smitty. I raced 6 races. I was behind him. I finally get ahead, and I said, "Louie, I don't care what happens, what you have to do. Don't let him buy us." And he's sitting there bobbing his head. I said, "Louie, I'm talking to you. I hear you. I hear you." Don't he wave when Smitty goes by? I said, Louie, you can't. Then we finally got ahead, and he waved him. He's too good to be my friend. I
He's
swear to
too
God,
nice,
he's
man.
such a gentleman. I said, Louis, what happened?
Dude.
We just had a meeting about this.
Dude,
And he waves to Smitty on the way by. We finally got it.
in the same race, same exact race as I'm talking about. We're coming out of turn 1 into that left-hander there, and we're running up on the back of Howard's boat, right? And I'm laughing. I go, Johnny, let's get Stanch. He probably don't know we're coming, right? So we drift outside here, which is actually inside here, right? Because we come out of a right into a left. So I kind of drift outside over to your inside into that left, and I'm like, he don't know we're here. I'm thinking I'm just gonna crack up. We'll go flying by you, Danny. Where do you come from? Dude, I looked over. His eyes were this big. You just started coming to that buoy.
I was
like this
holy-
motherfucker.
It wasn't on purpose. It really wasn't. You guys came from nowhere. Wow.
I'm thinking, let's fuck with Pop. Here we are. Me and Louie are shitting our pants, making sure we get through there. I think I owe Pop a turn buoy from that one. But that's another ride you're in, man. And it's cool because I just had a long talk with Christian on the podcast in the last show about Pacheco and a little bit of what he did there with the Bad Boy product.
Yeah.
And, dude, it's so good that you're partnered up with Howard because
he's awesome.
He's an
really
awesome
is.
dude. He's been around the sport for a long time. And you're in a really cool boat. It just needs a little R&D.
I said, turn it. He said, are you sure? Are you really sure? It's really cool. Like between Louis and him, I'm very
you got a
fortunate.
cool ride,
Are
man.
you sure? Are you really sure? I said, turn it.
Louis stone cold. I ran with Louis one time in Key West. That was when the guy from Italy couldn't run the third race. Never been in Louis' boat ever before. So, hey, you want to throttle my boat for me? I'm like, yeah, okay,
Giancarlo, that's right.
Giancarlo, right.
You were racing against Second Amendment, right?
Yeah, we go down into the harbor turn. I guess that's turn 3 in Key West. And we're wide open going down in the turn. I said, how's this thing handled? He goes, just hold it down. I got it. Oh, I've been around this block once before. It didn't work well. Man, I held that thing wide open. It jumps out sideways and slides right through there. And he's like, see? All right, you win. But he's good. Louis really good in the boat.
He's great.
Yeah,
He's
man.
great in the boat.
When I got to run with him there in Fort Myers, I said to him, Bud, I never drove a 35 before, and from what I understand, they're pretty slippery, right? He goes, it'll be fine. He goes, we get down to turn 1, I'll roll off a little bit, put you in there nice, and see what you think, and if you like it, we'll push, and, we'll have a good day. All right. Green flag goes up. We kind of got a little discombobulated on the start. However you plan a boat race, ladies and gentlemen, it never goes that way. So we get down to turn 1, and we got him by like a boat length, right? I said to Louie, hold it down, because if he gets in front of us, we'll never get around him, right? So we got in there, I took the wheel, and I just went like this. And that thing stepped out off its corner, stepped out
it's
sideways,
really
and
nice.
motored through that turn. I was like, this is amazing,
It really is. It's unbelievable.
So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, dude, we're bad. We got this, I look over, and Louie's like 3/4 sticking it. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, they yell at me when I throttle. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I break everything. I said, well, break it, man. I don't care. We'll take it home and fix it. We're going to lose to the old man. He's like, I can hear them yelling at me from Long Island. He's going.
He's hysterical. He really is.
We get down into the bottom half of that turn. It got a little shitty in there, that turn to come back up the beach. So he's in there like half sticking it. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'll break the drives. I'm like, stop it, man. Just run the boat. I don't care. It's your shit. You're allowed to break it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I raced with Herbie back in the day, and just Mike Fury.
What was that like? What was I a lot of people have an opinion of Herbie. Mine happens to be extremely high.
He's out of his mind in a boat. Boy, when his ears get pointy, he gets like the devil. You look over.
Did you ever see him roll up the mooring cover and stand on it so you can see over the dashboard?
It's unbelievable.
Uncalled for.
He's unbelievable in the boat.
Dude, you watch him run with Kerbeck back in the day. And
Unbelievable.
it's such a good boat.
Yeah.
It is such a good boat. Whenever he's in the boat, you can always tell. Like, Frank has a very technical style of running a boat. When you watch, I was trying to find a video. I can't find it. It's somewhere here on my phone. If I find it, I'll shoot it over to Sam and let her put it on TV. But it's a particular video that I remember Frank was throttling. And he's trying to run down Predator. Predator's got him by maybe 2 or 3 lengths. And it's just in the beginning of the race. So nobody's really pouring it on.
Right.
But you could see the precision of when Frank was running the boat. And I have another video of Herb. running the boat.
Herb's a monster, man.
Dude, that thing gets out off its tail, and it gets that Apache roll to
He's
it.
a monster.
And it's like,
Well,
man.
his theory is to get it on top, and Frank's very
And keep
tight.
it there.
Frank keeps it tight in the water. Not Herb, boy.
Right.
Even if Herb isn't faster, it's so much fun when you're in the boat. I mean, and you hear him.
Well, you got to remember, Herb gets paid to fix it.
Right.
when you Herb on the throttles, he don't miss. I mean, he's
a monster.
He's
Yeah.
a monster on his sticks.
Yeah,
He really is.
it cracks me up because it's funny. It's a whole lot like running with this guy, where all that trim and all that boat control. This is fun. Up. It's fast like this. You know, it cracks me up. You see Herb do it, and it's like, man, the guy's
Like
a knucklehead.
Frank would never get out of shape. Herb's out of shape once every lap. In other words,
But it's fast.
And it's fast.
Yeah, man. I'll find that video and stick it in the podcast somewhere so everybody at home could see that, because Herbie is a name that I think today gets stepped over too easily.
Yeah, he's
People don't realize the time Herbie's put in and the things he's accomplished and the teams he's run with, and like for instance, one boat that he rigged showed up in Inglewood 2 years ago, DF Young, and just came in and stomped the field after how many years of being away, and it's just a testament to his caliber of work. He's phenomenal, man. I've seen the pictures and you've never made good on the promise of getting me an island runner.
We'll get you in there.
But I've seen the pictures of the bilge of that thing, and it is artwork.
It's art. It's art, and you can run it. We take it out every weekend,
Right.
and run it. It's amazing. Usually stuff that looks like that you can't run. Smitty will tell you that stuff. No, usually it is. It holds together. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's
amazing.
a showroom in there, man.
Uh-huh.
It's beautiful, you know, and it's just it's another one I was actually in was Oliver's 47, which is another one he built the motors for, and like it's just there's something different about, like earlier Pop made mention that I call catamarans litter boxes, and I don't mean anything by that. All you boys that run cats, I love you and I respect you. They're just not for me.
He means
He
it.
means it.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
They're
I
just
know
not
about
for
this.
me,
He
man.
means it.
Well,
All
here,
right,
I'll give you a real quick scenario why he calls them litter boxes. Everybody knows Jay Muller, okay? So when Nick was young, like maybe 9-10 years old, Jay used to come down here with his Cobra Cat and his motion cat. We'd put it in the water for him, and he'd go test it here, and he'd always take him for a ride in it. And it's kind of ironic that every time he went for a ride, he either caught fire or
sunk,
sinking, or Jay would be like, Nick, go to the front of the boat and don't move.
dude, we're on fire.
I don't remember what we're talking about.
Good. All right. Sorry, guys. We got all new equipment in the podcast room, and we had a failure. But let's see. What were we talking about? We were talking about Herb. I think we should throw in the towel on Herb. Sorry, buddy. Technical difficulties. I don't remember where we left off. But oddly enough, as we're sitting here, Smitty gets a text from John Hagen. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. So I wanted to kind of move into that eventually. So I kind of brought that up about you being a navigator there, and a navigator we lost, but a navigator we gained was John Hagen. And it cracks me up. You can't look. My mom was trying to find all kinds of crazy pictures for me to have for when you came back in. And one thing we were talking about is those days and how much that guy.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot
man.
of fun.
Talk about a jacked up fun meter, man. That guy got in the old Viper and ran for years consistently with us, where we could never get anybody to come back a second time.
Well, he would get in the boat. He had elbow pads, knee pads, Hans devices, everything else, but he wouldn't let us start the boat until he stuck his sticky, geishy, dancing Hawaiian girl on the dashboard. As long as she was on the dashboard dancing around, he was a happy camper.
It cracks me up, man.
He'd come down the beach flying with both hands waving to the people.
John Carbonell yelled at me about that.
Yeah, halfway out of the boat.
We're coming into harbor in Key West, and there's John. He's got his arms hanging. And Carbonell grabbed me by the neck. He's like, "You let that guy disrespect you like that, make you look like a fool?" I said, "John, he's having a time of his life. He can do whatever he wants."
Yep, that was funny.
He's so cool. I mean, I can remember that year we ran the race out of Camden off the Battleship.
Yeah.
How many of those highlighter color AMF jackets did he hand out, man? You'd be driving down a parkway, like coming up to work or something, and see one on the side of the road, or there was thousands of them he gave away, man.
I've actually got a meeting this week out in Philly. They're looking to do it again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That'd
We'll see
be
what
cool,
happens.
man.
That was a cool site.
I think the more stuff we do like that up here, it only helps the sport. Every time we put on a race in an area we haven't been to in a while, it drags a lot of new guys in.
You know, it's not really the racing so much as it is the families come out. You go to Englewood and see all the people come out. And
There's nothing like it.
There is nothing like it.
No.
And it's not like NASCAR. Anybody can come up and talk to us idiots.
Right.
People think we know what we're doing. It's so cool. It's so cool. Boy, do we got them fooled. But
it's like when we go to St. Clair. I have people. We've been there for so many years. I'm on 16 years maybe now. We've been there. That people will call me a couple of weeks before and ask if we want to stay at their house. You know, do you have a hotel? We'll put you up. You know, and it's just so cool.
It really is. It really is cool.
It is. It's awesome. I told the story on the podcast with Christian. But like I got a kid that I met up there when he was 11, 12 years old that just a couple of weeks ago I got a Facebook message. He bought a 21-foot Wellcraft and he's trying to ask me questions. How do I get this thing to run? And I'm like, man, when I met you, you were this big. You know, and it's just crazy. The people you meet and the stuff you come across. And
note to self, when he met you, you were that big.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. We're walking in here, and I said to Johnny, I said, Nicholas doesn't let me in there much. I think he's afraid of what I'm going to say. But so I said to Johnny, I think we should interrogate Nicholas now. Tell us about your career, son.
Oh, man,
I was born a poor white child.
How much time you got? It's long and prolific.
Listen, real quick, I don't want to interfere on your show here, but for a dad to sit here with his son who's put together something like this makes me proud. You know, this sport needs this. You know, we all think we're rock stars. We all think we're.
Nobody knows how much fun it is unless you go. You just have no idea.
To get the word out is huge.
Well, and you know what I actually get the most feedback from is the old timers that aren't around anymore. Right. You know, and I get a lot of those calls. And that's actually, why I'm doing this kind of new string of show here where we kind of highlight a little bit of the history, because if guys today don't understand the guys from them, you don't know what you came from, And I get a lot of that. I get, I get a lot of the guys, the warriors from back then that are like, this is cool because they can't be around anymore and they get their fix, Yep. And it's nice. Thanks, Pop. It's so much fun. And you know what's cool? And you hit the nail on the head where it's not the racing. It's the people.
It's the people. It's
this show. People tell me all the time, thank you for doing this. And I'm like, no, thanks for coming. Yeah. I enjoy this. I enjoy this so much because all winter we sit here twiddling our thumbs just waiting to do our, stupid shit with our buddies again, It's so cool. And I'm sorry, guys. Augie was supposed to be here today, and I put here you go. That's our tribute to Augie today. He couldn't be here. Don't worry, it don't work, or else I had a shot pop up a long time ago. But it's just so cool. And you're 1,000,000% right with Inglewood. I talk about Inglewood on every show I do, and it's not designed. It's just it is that cool of a place.
Yeah, it really is.
When you brought us down there that first year, I think a lot of teams were like, "Wow,"
No question about it.
We get guys that like Key West. You got to be there Sunday to the Sunday, right? It's a long event. We got Inglewood. We raced Saturday, Sunday, and we still have guys that come the weekend before and hang out all week long because it is just such an awesome area.
Yeah.
There's something for everybody. That's really what it is.
And now have to Moorhead City. It's crazy to have two sites like that really like us. They don't know.
Moorhead's another one, man.
Moorhead's the same way.
Yeah. But we got a little pull down there in Moorhead.
People say I have a lot of respect for you, Mr. Stanch, and I'm like, we got that guy fooled.
You know why that worked in Moorhead? Because the guy that's running it's more fucked up than we are.
Yeah. He's got a lot of pull down there. One of the super stocks are upside down, and Cito goes over there and puts a line on them, and they're like, well, we need to talk about the tow and the contract. And Jeff got on the phone. He goes, sir, this is Jeff McCann. Oh, yes, sir. We'll tow that in for free. It'll be right at the dock. All right, so you're not allowed in this bar anymore unless you cooperate.
That boy's accrued some yomies over the years, man. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but what a feat that was, man. To be there September 10th, right, racing for what we thought was going to be the only event of the year, and then for Jeff to turn around and 37 days later pull off a world championship. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
It was awesome. It was.
And his guy DJ there. I mean, you can't name names because that doesn't happen without an enormous amount of help. But
well, really, I called Jeff. It was probably the week after the first race, and I said to him, so what do you think? We could do that again? Oh, yeah, we'll do it again. I'm like, next month? He's like, what? I go, yeah, like Englewood canceled. They can't pull it off. Winning the Worlds. He goes, well, there's only one person I got to ask. I go, who's that? He goes, my wife. Thanks, honey.
Thank you.
That
is, what was cool about Moorhead is it reminded me a lot of our roots. Like we brought up the Camden thing, and the one thing I remember about Camden is that monsoon we got stuck in.
Yeah.
Remember that year?
I sunk my rental car.
Yeah. And you know what was awesome about that is even though the race we were drenched and everything, nothing really worked out
still
right.
had fun.
We had so much fun because we were all together.
Yep.
We were all huddled under the only tent trying to stay dry. And you look at like Moorhead, and it's another situation just like that, where all this craziness, it's a torrential downpour of bullshit. Right, COVID and politics and this and that and the other thing. We got to Moorhead, and it was like our tent. We were just.
It was great.
It was so
really
good, and the people from Moorhead. I get messages all the time because we ran that event back to back like that. I get people all the time. You guys are coming back, right? They thought we were coming back again. I was like, yeah, next year.
About it.
Next year. But yeah, man, thank you, Jeff McCann, and all kudos to the staff there at the Jack's Waterfront Bar, Moorhead City, North Carolina, for the fantastic service. Thanks, Jeff.
No, everything worked out. Everything worked out.
Man, it more than worked out. That was perfect.
Yeah.
The first time we went there, it was like a kind of profound to be standing there, because up until that point, I mean, you guys went to Lotto, so you at least had the Lotto Invitational run before that. But everybody was locked in their house for 6-7 months. Nobody knew what to believe.
Yep.
And then we got down there, and it was such a breath of fresh air, man. I'll never forget, as long as I live, as much stuff as I do in this sport, I'll never forget that day, standing up on the top of Jeff's bar, and they're doing the national anthem. And I looked, and all you could see, for as long as your eyesight would allow you, was spectator boats with American flags. And I mean, it was just so cool. Like it is. I feel like we're the last like American frontier in sports. As everybody, dude, Michael Jordan announced the Daytona 500. What are we doing, guys? You know what I mean? Where's Darrell Waltrip? We're losing so much of what makes racing, and to be able to champion a sport like this to the masses is so important to me, because like that day there, standing there on the dock in Moorhead City, it comes to you, it hits you.
No
how
question.
important this is.
No question about it.
There had to be somewhere around 500 spectator boats there, right? Which is a lot for that little harbor. I mean, if not more, that first time around. And I mean, every single one of them with their hands on their hearts and the flags flying, and it's just such a good movement for what's going on today. We need it.
Not to be political, and I don't want to get into all that craziness, but whether you liked Donald Trump or you didn't like Donald Trump, from the Republican side of the party, he brought tradition back.
Yeah.
He did. Everybody, I don't know what really brought that up. But like, I'm a flag guy. I'm a U.S. flag bearer, the whole deal. But I never had a flag flying in my house.
Right.
All right. Now you see them flying behind my house.
Well, I think it's funny because it's such a touchy subject. Like nobody wants to get involved with it, right? But I think it's a very simple concept. A lot of the things that Americans enjoyed about America came back in those 4 years.
Yep.
No question about it.
And that's just all you can hang your hat on. I mean, you could feel however you want to feel about how things move going forward, but for those 4 years, the America that a lot of us love and respect came back.
There's nothing like the airplanes flying over that knucklehead Moorhead City flying upside down when they're playing the end. I mean, how cool is that? Come on.
We had a full-blown air show. I mean, Jeff, not for nothing, but Jeff really pulled out all the stops.
He did. It was great.
He really did, man. It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
That's one, like, there's races that you go to over the years that, like, you'll never miss, and that's one of them.
The small communities. I mean, listen, I'm not, like, saying that one site's better than another site. They're all different. Every site has an asset, and every site has its downside, But when you get to these little cities, like Tawas, Michigan, we ran for a couple of years. I mean, we showed up there, And the kids in school had taken notebooks and drew pictures of all the boats, and we're roaming around, getting
Roaming through the
signatures of the
boats,
teams.
yeah.
And
It was an actual assignment.
Right.
yeah, in the school.
The school actually
know?
had them do that.
Yeah, it's just amazing how the impact you have in some areas.
One of my
you know.
favorite memories that every once in a while I crack up laughing when I see a picture from Tawas is that block party we did. And they had, I don't know how many kids. I mean, there had 1,000 of these kids. And they would come by and they'd look up at the boat and, come on, can I come up there? You know, and see you lean over a boat, you pick them up, you put them in, right? It was fantastic. I woke up the next morning and went to the driver's meeting, right? And I get to the breathalyzer, I do the breathalyzer, you know, and I'm just kind of sitting in my chair. It's early. And I went to like lean back in my chair and kind of go like this. And I was like, oh man, my shoulders were on fire. Every muscle from here up was broken. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I can't drive the boat, right? I look over and my brother's like, yeah, you put 1,000 kids in the boat yesterday. Leaning over, putting them in. Leaning over, putting them in. And I'll do that.
Right.
I'll do that every
No, there's
weekend, man.
there's nothing like
you know
it.
why? Because
There's
we
nothing
probably
like it.
created 24 boat racers from that.
Yeah, and there really isn't. There's nothing like it.
No, that's why you do it. You know, and it's so silly because, you know, a lot of us would race no matter what, right? I mean, a lot of us, if Pop called us tomorrow and said, hey, man, we got to run down here in Atlantic City. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's going to be there. There's no money. There's no, you know what I mean? Actually, matter of fact, you got to pay us. We'd still come.
You know, it's funny when you say like the kids. I would tell the kids, go over and tell that guy. He's going to ask you if you want a signature. Tell him you're not really want his, but it's Johnny Stanch around. I'm looking for him. And I've watched the kid myself hide behind a tree. Come over and say to my best friend, no, I don't want yours, but you know where Johnny Stanch is?
Dude, while you're both sitting here, one of the best ones of all time is that year in Atlantic City when you had their trophy pre-made for them.
Yeah, their second place trophy.
Oh man, dude, that is, dude. To this day, I would hate to have been the guy that received that trophy, but dude, the balls on it. We're down in Atlantic City one year for everybody listening, and we get the trophies out of the boxes, and we're going to put them out on the table so that when everybody shows up, the awards are ready. So Pop goes, "Don't put that one on the table. That one's special." Right? So they go through the thing, they get to their class, and they call, you know, third place or whatever, and they get to second place. Louie and Johnny go up and get their trophy and look at it. It already had their name on it.
How cool was that? That was cool.
That never works.
Oh, that was so cool.
You know, all you people out there on that book face thing, this guy beats me up regularly. I haven't seen him lately on there, so he told me he gave it up for Lent. But we are good friends.
Too funny, man. I get 2 or 3 people every year that are like, "What's going on with Johnny?"
You know, I had people call me, I don't like that guy either. It's my best friend. It's my best friend in the world.
He's got a bigger fan club than I do. It's not fair.
You know, I don't like that guy either. No, it's not like that. He's my best friend.
I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard.
Dude, stuff, man. The picture of that drivers meeting in St. Clair when all of us fighting. I laugh so hard, man, because a lot of people really believe that. You wouldn't know it, man. You wouldn't know it, but everybody's best friends. It cracks me up, man. But so, what do you got going on, Pop? You get ready for this season? You got Louie.
Yeah.
You're coming back with Louie.
Yeah.
You running with Howard again?
Yeah, Howard's been working on the boat. He's trying to get it dialed in.
Cool.
I think we're going to be good.
Yeah. Why, you found some speed in that bad boy?
I think we're going to be racing against each other.
That's right.
Son of a bitch.
Imagine that.
That's right. One more time.
Now we'll get to do it twice in one day.
That would be fun.
What do you think? What do you really think of that bad boy in that class? You like that boat?
You don't want to be near me in rough water. There's nobody beating that. Once we learned the boat and I was in calm water, it's a bigger boat when you look at it compared to the other ones. It's so much area to get moving. But
Yeah.
boy, when it's
though, you look at that, and the last couple of years of racing, we always seem to have had a balance, right, where you had kind of the same amount of drag races as you did haymakers, right? But I don't think that's because of the locations. I truthfully think that we just kind of got lucky those
Right.
years. Like even 2019, we went to Cocoa Beach, and like even Cocoa Beach was a lily pond that year, where just the year prior was boats were basically rolling up on the beach, getting caught in the rollers. I mean, they were huge. So, like a boat like you're in there with Howard, I mean, you got a real contender there.
No, it's no question about it. I took it out with Anthony one day, and we wanted to see what it would do. And Anthony was throttling, and boy, he put it on its tail, and I'm like, my God! But you could never race the boat like that. It's like you were saying with your Phantom. You just couldn't get around the course. But boy, he had it running. I mean,
That was the day you figured out how much water it needs to float.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I wish I brought the picture. Okay, I'm out in a little 20-foot Mako looking for this guy. Right? Here he comes from a mile away, walking through the mud in his Kerbeck Cheetos and leather shoes. I'm like, John, where's the boat? Oh, it's way over there.
It was sitting. It looked like we parked it there on a trailer. Me and Howard were having so much fun.
Howard was a good captain. He stayed with the ship. This guy jumped.
That 29 turned into a 28, huh?
Oh, it was funny. It was hysterical.
You got to
And
be
it didn't
careful in
hurt
that great bag.
It didn't hurt the. I thought we were having motor trouble because it kept slowing down, so I stayed in it.
They were so far in the mud. We had the big boat out there. We couldn't even get close. So I went and got the little Mako because that really doesn't draw any water. I still couldn't get to him.
Howard actually spent the night in the boat.
Yeah,
Right. And we
yeah.
came back in the morning and got him out.
We got him out of there probably 11, 12 o'clock at night. His knees were knocking, his teeth were chattering. Thanks, guys.
It's funny. I jumped out of the boat and my feet didn't get wet. Howard was under the canopy. His house and look.
Not good.
Not good, but not good.
You're hungry? I see some clams.
Yeah, when you jump out of the boat, the feet don't get wet. It was funny.
The only person that's good at that anymore is Curtis. That's too funny, man. It's just cool. It's cool to see that boat back in competition now because, I know where that boat came from. So I know it's from good stock. And, like watching it run there, like I was out on the course with you in Fort Myers. It's got a great attitude.
No, it's got a great attitude.
It looks like
really
you're
does.
looking for the last couple mile an hour, which will come.
If there's a bump out there, the boat would be tough to beat. I mean, it's strong. It's the same bottom really as your 32 Viper.
Right.
It's exactly the same boat. Boy, if there's a lump out there, it'll rock.
Yeah, it looks it. It looks it, because like the Phantom, like from us running down in Moorhead, you can feel like the mindset of how that boat got built. You feel it when you're running it.
Right.
It's a flexible flyer. I mean, it's loose. It's for that big top number, and then you see a boat like you're in with Howard there, where that's a boat and that's a battleship.
It really is. And it doesn't do anything. It doesn't surprise you at all. There's no surprises. It's like running the Instigator. There's no surprises.
Right.
Where you and Louis boat, you get a surprise every once in a while.
Speaking of Instigator, man, the press release went live 2 weeks ago about Ed and his battle with cancer. And I'd just like to take 2 seconds here and let everybody know that Ed's been swinging at this thing for a couple months now, and he's kicking its ass. Cancer's going down 10-9 every round. And Ed, we're all praying for you. We're all on your side. We love you, buddy, and we can't wait to see you at Cocoa Beach.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and most of us have raced up in St. Clair, know Julie.
Yeah.
And Julie has been amazing. She's just taking them in every day. Listen, I know they're a couple and everything else, but she's way over the top. Julie, we love you. And, we hope the best for both of you guys up there.
Yeah, thanks for taking care of our boy, Julie. You did a great job. And he's not through the woods yet, man, but I'd hate to be anything standing in his path.
I wouldn't want to be cancer inside of him.
Fuck no, man. That guy's going to kick its ass.
They should have picked somebody else.
Yeah.
Not like a volunteer or anything, but...
That's one tough bastard, man.
He is.
He'll be good. And he
All
promises...
he's talked about for the last 7 months is racing that damn boat.
Yeah.
He's on the phone with Anthony every day.
Yeah.
So that's good.
It's good.
He'll be back.
It is,
He'll
man.
be back.
I can't wait.
He'll be back in it.
Oh, yeah, man. And I'd hate to be racing against him in that first race back. What a madman. What a madman. But it's cool. But you got a lot of time in Instigator.
Yeah, 10 years.
You know, well, and I'm sorry, I keep calling it Instigator. It's Knucklehead Racing Instigator. And, you know, it's cool down in Moorhead the second day to see that thing come down to turn one, 15 boat lengths in front of Miss Geico? That is such a bad machine, dude.
Well, yeah, you know what your brother did there.
Come on, don't give up his secret.
He went on the yellow flag.
So he's colorblind.
He's like, I'm going to mess with Curtis.
Yellow, green.
It's funny, when Peter got sick in the boat, he had a heart problem when we were racing. We wound up in 5th place. And he said, "Who's the best you know to get in here? I'd like to see if we have a shot." And he said, "Anthony Smith." He said, "Who?" I said, "Anthony Smith. He's from up Smitty's. He's pretty good," because nobody really knew him. He ran OPA, and those guys only ran SPI, so they didn't really know how good he is. I knew how it was because I ran both organizations. So he says, "You know, it's going to cost me a lot of money to fly this kid in. Is he really good?" I said, "Peter, I'm telling you." So Joe Scrow gave up his plane and went down to pick him up, and they were laughing at us. Billy and Brandon, "Who's this kid? Who's this kid?" Had his hat all backwards coming into the pits.
Yeah.
Oh, it was funny.
We were sitting down in a driver's meeting, and who ran with Billy then? Brett Firstman, right?
Yeah.
So Brett Firstman leads over to me and goes, "What, Junior, have to bring his daddy here for support?" I go, "No, I come down here to watch him kick your ass."
It was fun, and you know, it's just you can't have this kind of fun that we have. Like they were already practicing their acceptance speech for first place because there's no way you could come from 5th place to beat them, and we got lucky. I mean, 2 days in a row we were able to nip them, and
That was more than luck.
No,
I was standing on the seawall those 2 days,
fun.
man.
It was fun.
That was reckless abandon.
But you can't have that much fun. I mean, I love those guys, Billy and Billy Glick, and
It takes
Joe
two.
Scrow was there with
Yeah.
Steve, and it was great. And we needed Steve to finish in front of them too, like for the points to work. We had to figure it out, and it worked out. Like there was no way we were going to win, but it actually worked out.
Now, was that 2017?
16,
16?
I think.
Yeah, it's because the following year he was there with AMH, right?
Right.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I remember standing there the second day. And the second day, you were behind in the first lap there. And had
we
to
were
run
behind for a little while.
Yeah, and had to run them down.
Right.
And, you know, what was interesting to me about Instigator was it seemed lap by lap the boat got better and better.
Well, we came into our setup, and
whereas they were at it.
and they were at their setup, and we came into ours, and he was clearly the faster boat. It's just as we burned off fuel and Anthony got used to the boat, it was, you know.
Well, you see, what seems to make the difference standing on shore and watching that unfold, right, is you see Instigator roll up into a turn, and it picks up a different attitude than almost any other fountain.
Yeah.
You know, even watching it in Moorhead where, you know, pretty lazy, sweeping, flat water turns, that thing just looks aggressive.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It never surprises you, so you can go in knowing what you got.
Right.
And that's the difference. I think Billy's boat's a Kevlar boat, so every once in a while it flexes and surprises you. And, you know, he can't go into the turn with the same aggression that we could. And he had the faster boat. I mean, it's just, we go out, he clearly had the faster boat.
And if you go back and pull that up on one of John's live streams there from back then, you can really see as you get out in front, Twisted try to fold up the landing gear, and it's everything it's got.
Right.
And Instigator's just getting better.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people would look at that and say, well, they were getting faster. And you might have been, but it was the control factor in the boat.
The boat's just, it doesn't surprise you. I mean, you can just keep it in there, and it's amazing. I mean, for all the years I ran it with Pete, it never, we'd be alongside of Steve and Joe in their outer limits, and they always had a faster boat. I mean, down the straightaways they were, but they just wouldn't run with that particular boat because it would handle going through the turns, and crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy machine, you know, especially when you see the care that's been taken, you know, through its life.
Right.
You know, from all those years of Kenny maintaining it, Kenny Adams, who was the crew chief for Instigator, and then now AMH up until now, and And then you see from that transition to Ed, who's spared no expense in maintaining the boat. The boat maintains its performance. I mean, that boat, every couple of years, you'll get a hot ride, right? You'll have a boat that comes out and just barnstorms the competition. But that boat's been a mainstay, particularly, and you guys had some, and you said it before, it takes, the other guys, like Brett and Billy. And it takes them to push you to really show what that boat's about.
Right.
But what's interesting about that particular battle is, in my opinion, Twisted may even be a better boat. It's just Instigator's got that attitude, man.
Right.
It's the real deal.
No, it really
it sits
no
and
question
hunts.
about it.
Yeah.
It sits and hunts. That's the difference.
It does. The
you know?
year me and you tried to run it down in Ocean City is when I really understood it the first time. We got the green flag together. Ed and Anthony were on the inside line as we were coming up the outside. And as we got to them, we're chuckling because to us, we're down on the beach. Anthony's all the way in here. He don't even know we're coming, right? So in our head, this is going to be like we roll pie him, pinch him into the turn. It'll be like our 10 seconds of fame, Anthony saw us coming. I think he sneezed. He went, "What you?" And that thing was 300 yards away from us. I was like, holy shit, that thing's fast. Crazy how fast it is.
Well, you got Reggie Fountain to thank for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, in my opinion, he's second to none. Reggie's products. I mean, and even back to like your 42 with the blower motors. I mean, how much fun was that?
There's nobody that would ever believe that I've been in a 41 Apache with 1,500 horsepower, and I've been an Instigator with 750 horsepower. And there's nobody who believed that the Instigator would run with a 41 Apache, but it would. And I don't care how big the water is, unless it was 6 foot or over that. But nobody would ever believe that boat would run with an Apache.
What's interesting is Instigator's technically a 40, right? Or
It's
a 42.
When they cut it down, it becomes a 40. Yeah.
Right. And then if you ever see it in the water, it's not much bigger than Louis' boat or the Purple boat. It's not much bigger.
Nah.
So like a 41 Apache, that's a real 41-foot boat. I mean, big, a lot of freeboard, gigantic V-bottom, and Instigator will run right with one.
Nobody would ever believe it because these guys that raced in these Apaches think it's a joke. It's not a joke. The photo, I've been in both of them. I've raced 10 years.
Even look at our 38 with the 525s. We're out playing with you that day with the 41 Apache.
Yep.
Yeah.
Runs right with them.
Yeah, Reggie's.
Nobody would believe it. They just like these old school guys, like you would try to convince Billy Martin, or they wouldn't believe it.
Right.
Rich Lures would never believe that you could run that boat against the 41 Apache. Unless he was sitting in it, he would come back and say, "Hey, you know what? You got something."
You know what's impressive too? They not Instigator, but ours. They do it on the Bravos, which is unbelievable. I mean, when we were out playing with you guys, when you were out with Frank and Herbie, that fountain is 5 1/4. At that time, they were real 5 1/4.
Right.
They weren't even anything crazy. They were bone stockers.
Yep.
And it'll run 100, 101 across the bump like it's nothing, And then you go the next step to Instigator with the 6s and the 572s.
The funny thing, if you see the way we would run against Billy and Brett, where you're touching each other, you wouldn't do that in a 41 Apache at 100 mile an hour. We were going 125 mile an hour.
Dude, that video has to be one of the most singular, most popular videos in Offshore. I mean, that.
But if you had 2 Apaches, you would never even consider.
No.
You wouldn't.
Not for nothing, John. Even if it was 2 fountains, most of us still wouldn't consider doing something like that.
Well, you know who you're running against. If I'm running against with Anthony or against your pop,
lots of time in the boats.
You're pretty comfortable with what you're doing. I don't care who's driving the boat. I ain't get alongside of Herbie in a 41 Apache and touching them. You just can't.
It's like playing tag at Greyhound buses.
Yeah.
Never really works out well.
It's just, I don't know.
It's cool, man. In the new thing, it seems to be coming along is this, the new outboard push. You see Mercury put out that 600, which will never make it to any kind of racing application, at least not as it sits now. But you see the outboards coming along. I mean, from the days of the 2.5 to all the way to now, it's crazy to see that resurgence. It's cool. And we got that 450 factory stock class coming out for this year. And what I'm intrigued to see is how, not so much, everybody's so harping on this, them versus the super stock class because it's 2 outboard cats. But in my mind, they really rival more of a super cat.
Right.
Like, I think they're going to be more in the speed range of a super cat at that 36 to 44?
34 to 40. But we thought about that a lot. It's a tweener. You know, it sits right between the speeds of the super stocks and the super cats, so it's not like a threat to anybody.
No.
It's just, you know, I spent a lot of time with Randy Sism up at MTI talking about it, you know, and everybody thinks that I did it as a favor for Randy or something like that. No, I just, you know, with the surgence of the outboard class, it's a durable package. You know, they may have some issues with some gear cases right now and prop shafts, but Mercury will get through that. You know, I just thought it was time for the sport to just see something a little different. That's all. I don't want to sit in a box and
There's
just
a
think
lot
that
of people that have those boats and would love to watch them race. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, if you own one of those boats, you want to go to the races. That's, you know,
and
and it doesn't matter whose brand it is, whether it's Randy's or everybody that has one of those boats wants to watch them race.
Yeah.
Because they know they're good boats. Like, if that boat raced, it would be a good boat.
Yeah, and the outboards kind of create a different vibe to it too, where you watch those super stocks run, or even the X-Cat series overseas. Yeah. There's just a different attitude in those boats. They're a lot lighter and freer on the water. They're, you know, to me, that's like it'll look a lot like Super Cat Light was back in the day, where those boats were paperweights, and they were just, you know, I can remember standing on like seawalls watching those old Cat Lights coming at you, man, and it was like, is that thing gonna turn? You know, it's running at you, but it's running this way. It's like, holy shit, you know. And that's what you get with like super stock. You know, you get that, you know, hanging it out there, trying to find that last half a mile an hour. Now you're going to see that in a much bigger application. I think it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be neat watching them trying to dial those boats in. Like, do I want one that's going to run the rough water? Do I want one that's going to be fast at the top? Like, there's a lot of variables there.
They're going to go through all of the trials and tribulations that Superstock has had 20 years of developing. They're going to just be starting from square one now, which is going to be really cool. You're going to see, like, Randy's going to be the first entry to the class, more than likely. But you're going to see a Skater come into the fold. You're going to see a Doug Wright come into the fold, and you're going to start to see those manufacturer battles. And
that's awesome. When you get that going, it's like Instigator would run against Outer Limits, and once you get that going, it's, you know, if you don't change with the times, that is the times. I mean,
that's right now.
Those 38-foot cats with outboards.
Well, you know, and really, it's nothing new to the manufacturers, because they all build them as pleasure versions.
Right.
You know, you got guys out running these boats in poker runs at 130, 133 miles an hour with 5 people, a cooler, lunch, and everything. All we're doing now is putting a lid on them.
Right.
You know, and the cool thing about the class is they're all gonna have to be the same. Every manufacturer, everyone he builds has to be the same as the one he built before.
Well, and that's what what's got me so excited about this addition to the class list is it's starting out the right way. You're homologating the hulls. You're doing it the right way. See, Superstock is going to be in this perpetual motion of trying to figure out how to phase in the new technology all the time. That's what they're going to be doing. Whereas this class, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. I mean, you need innovation in the sport. You need change. You can't, or else we'd all be running 20-year-old equipment. But with this class, you're going to see a real stock level of racing where everybody's really in the same, same setup. I think that's going to be so cool. And I think with Randy's team coming out with JT and Taylor, right?
Yeah, Randy's daughter is going to be running the boat, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. You're going to see evolution. You're going to see new generations in this sport. You're going to see. I love when something like this happens.
No, it's great because that's what the people are running. You go on the poker runs, you see them. They're lined up, and now they're kind of going to get a chance to see.
Well, people ask me all the time, why is NASCAR so popular and Offshore is not? And it's because anybody that watches that race owned a Chevy, owned a Pontiac, owned a Ford. They relate to it, And the problem in the sport's always been is the lot of the public doesn't even know what a boat is. So here you're taking a manufactured product that the public uses, and oh wow, this guy's racing it, and maybe it'll draw that interest in,
Yeah. Well, you're seeing it at a baseline level with Class 7. So, those 21 outboard boats have always been popular. It's not like, Class 7 ushered in a new popularity or anything. But what you're seeing is like Joey Riley and the kid James with the Naughty Boys boat. They're two progressions, right? Whereas in the last 20 years, when's the last time you heard of somebody running a progression? And all of a sudden, there's a million of them around. You got Velocity in the fold, that everybody's running those 22s. Now Velocity's selling 22s.
It's as cool as anything to have those guys in the Class 7.
It is so cool.
I mean,
it's so cool. It's, like to me, what really gets me about Class 7 is here's boats that you would never think you could do this with. Like that picture of Peter in the Bay Rat Class 7 Ghost in Point Pleasant, where he's 30 feet in the air. That's just, don't get me wrong. You don't want to know what happened when he came down. There's a lot of reasons why Peter probably doesn't race anymore. But you see those pictures and you're like, how can those things do that? I got passed by the Punisher team in Class 7 in Inglewood, and I tell this story. I think I've probably told this story on every single podcast I've done because I'm so fascinated by it. But if you go back to the 2019 Inglewood Championships, the second day, watch the first race of the day is Class 7, and check out the attitude on the Punisher boat. It's all black, 22 velocity. You'll know which one I'm talking about as soon as the stream starts. I mean, that thing's 10 feet in the air. I mean, sailing. I mean, if the bracket's 60 miles an hour and they all laugh like 60 slow, and then they say, well, try doing that in the bump. Right. This guy's doing 59 miles an hour and 6-footers in a 21-foot boat. I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of crazy guys come through the sport. That was nuts, So it's so cool. You're ushering in this new aspect of an old popular class that's had a resurgence, that's doing it a little bit different, and you got a lot of steam behind it. These guys
a lot of steam. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes it.
They're stoked, man. They love this stuff.
Well, we were in that race up in Fall River, and there were 16 of them there.
Yep.
And the green flag went up, and I'm watching down at the turn one. First, they had to go through that bridge, 16 wide, go down past the battleship, and then a hairpin turn and back through the bridge. And I'm like, what did I do? This is not going to end well. And they all got through there, every single one of them.
It's an intelligent class. It's looked at in an odd with an odd eye. People look at it as a starter class, as the small class, as the beginner class. It's none of those things. Those guys in those boats are very good. Extremely good. You got names in there like Anthony Perry. You know what I mean? You got guys that have been racing for a long time in that class.
It has nothing to do with a starter class.
No. And look at it this way, too. How many of those guys are now running the 525Bs?
Yeah, a lot.
So you could sit and you can entertain. Listen, the big cats are awesome. I love watching the super cats and the Class 1. I love watching them run. Don't get me wrong. But a guy doesn't just all of a sudden pop up and say, I'm going to spend $1 million and go boat racing. The class, you need to bring the talent in. And we're all getting a little older. I mean, he and I are, not to say collecting Social Security already, but, I'm going to talk about that park bench, but Johnny and I, many, many years ago, discussed this particular park bench that we'd be sitting on and drooling all over ourselves one day. It's close, buddy. We might have moved it from Jersey to Florida, but we're going to be sitting on it.
If somebody would have told me, I'd be sitting here getting ready to go racing at my age. I have never believed it.
Hey, we're still here, right?
We're still here.
You should be sitting here right now as Augie Dog, man.
Oh, my Lord.
There's so many good stories. What's cool to me is, like, you see the cast of characters. Like, we've been doing this a long time together, and everybody's still together. It's so much fun. You can't really get out. Even if you get out, you don't stay out.
Well, the best Augie Doggy story, it's just a real quick one, is we're in Biloxi, I think. 1 o'clock in the morning, we arrive into town, and Augie's all mad because he's missing turns and making U-turns. And so he finally whips this crazy U-turn right in the middle of the road. Anthony's laughing his ass off, right? Augie, what do you think's so funny? There's a cop sitting there right on a corner, So the cop stops him, walks up to the car, says to Augie, y'all from out of state? Augie goes, what gave it away? The fucking Jersey plates? Out of the truck, son.
I can remember the pictures of the next 5 minutes of that story where Augie's got the cop shotgun and trading them T-shirts.
It cost him 100 T-shirts, but he got out of
it. Cracks me up. I was just with Steve Adams from the Ammo Camo boat. We were picking up a boat from Long Island, and we got lost on the way home. And I'm telling him the story about when we were coming home from, I think we were somewhere out in Tennessee, and we got lost and wound up in Kentucky somewhere.
No, Augie knew a great steak joint.
Yeah.
At least that was his story.
Yeah, we got lost, all right. We wound up at the front door of some fantastic steak place Augie knew about. Cracked me up, man. There's so much funny stuff from back then.
Nah, that's great.
But
the Shadow Pirates, We all got thrown out of that restaurant. Who would have thought?
That was like 16 of us. We go out to dinner. Where were we? Port Huron, I guess, somewhere up there.
Yeah,
we were
it
in
was-
St. Clair.
Was it St.
That
Clair?
was when Scafidi
Yeah, we
flipped his boat
drove
over.
down. We
Yeah,
drove down.
we took that idiot Nick Scafidi with us, and he got us all thrown out.
I've been thrown out of places, but never a Longhorn Steakhouse. All 16.
Another all-time low for the Jersey boys.
Cracks me
Nick
up,
told him,
man.
"You can't throw me out."
Don't you know who I am?
You know who I am, and he threw all of us out. That was great. That was great.
Too fucking funny, man. You know what's cool? While I got you sitting here, we can kind of roll through a little bit what we got in store for this season. We're looking at 2021, and you know, if we go back a couple of months, we were all a little gun shy from having lost so many events, you know, in the year prior. So, you know, we got a lot of races on the schedule for this year. I think it's 12. You know, why don't you roll through some of them there? We're kicking off the season in Ocean City, Maryland, and then we're heading down to Cocoa Beach. What do we got going on?
Yeah, it's been in all honesty, in 20 years I haven't had a summer off. So I will say that it was kind of nice not boat racing for a whole summer, but I'm anxious. You know, I miss everybody, want to get back at it. We've been on the phone with all the promoters. Everybody's gung-ho. Looks like we're pretty much through this COVID situation. And everybody's moving along. I mean, Cocoa Beach, they have some restrictions. There's going to be some different things going on. But the site's ready to roll. Ocean City's ready to roll. Point Pleasant, Jersey Mike's is a primary sponsor of the Point Pleasant race this year. And then from there it rolls right on. We go to Lake of the Ozarks, Sarasota. I don't even know.
Oh, there's so many of them.
Yeah, St. Clair, Michigan City.
I did
It's a great
see-
venue. If we could pull them all off, it would be.
Yeah, and I think we will. I saw Cocoa Beach put out a press release about, you know, we're just going to have to be smart, do the mask thing, the sanitation thing, and, you know, not for nothing, but if you look at Morehead City, those two events we did down there, I'm not worried. Our guys, you know, our guys and gals are smart, man. You know, we didn't clog up registration or have any crazy situations, and everybody seemed to respect each other, keep the distance, do the mask thing.
No,
and-
I think if you get that, and our guys are pretty good because we all want to race and we all want the people come seeing us. I think if you get that working, and it seemed like it worked in Morehead City. I mean,
Yeah.
the restaurants. Did you have any problems? I didn't have any problems anywhere
No.
we went.
No.
And you know, and there was no enforcement. We did it because we wanted to be there and we wanted to be able to come back.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes when you start enforcing laws, it's a little funny. People.
You know, we're not stupid. We're not cattle. You know, if you're worried about COVID, you wear a mask.
Right.
You know, we just did Bike Week. And I think everybody was just so tired of being cooped up. It was the biggest bike week in Daytona I've ever seen. We went out to the Cabbage Patch, which is probably about 20, 30 miles west of Daytona. There had to be 300,000 motorcycles out there. I didn't see a mask anywhere. The sheriff's department's walking through the crowd, no masks. So I figured I'm going to come home and watch the COVID numbers. You figure something would have spiked from all that? Nah. I mean, listen, I know it's real, and I know people have lost loved ones, but it's time to live our lives.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we are. I think, you know, most of the country, you can't just keep everything shut down. You know what I mean? It's not the answer. It was never the answer. It was just a Band-Aid. And they're realizing that, and things are opening back
They're
up.
starting to realize it. I mean, do you have to be smart? I mean, if you're not healthy, yeah. I mean, you know, it seems like if a person's not healthy, he's got to be extra careful.
Yeah.
And
Listen, it was close to home for us. When COVID first hit, that was right when Mama was finishing up with her chemo and everything. And you know, so trust me, I mean, you know, she couldn't even take vitamins. So it was a scary, especially at a time where they're saying we don't know what to do.
Right.
We don't know how to treat this. All we could tell you is take your vitamins and stay out of the crowds, right? Well, here we are in a situation where all we can do is stay out of the crowds. She can't take her vitamins. She's just getting over all that stuff, right? So, you know, even through all of that, we still manage to have fun and live life and do stuff and just be smart, you know. And I don't think all this lockdown
shutting
stuff is
everything
necessary.
down isn't the answer. I mean, it's shutting everything down is not the answer.
You know what I think the
Being
problem
careful
is?
is the answer.
I think the problem is a lot of people can point out that shutting everything down wasn't the problem, and I'm one of those people, right? But I think you need to come up with a better solution. And at the moment, for people that are looking at 60 million people in this country, it's hard to find a better solution. They're just trying to get through it, so it is what it is. And it unfortunately negatively affected our sport, last year, but we'll survive. This is a sport that's been around a long time. We'll be fine. And there's a lot of momentum for this year, man.
I don't like that people are scared to death. I see people every day when I'm at work, they're just scared to death over it. And I'm not saying everybody shouldn't be aware, but to live your life scared to death, there's older people that don't leave their house.
It's not their fault. It's been spoon-fed to them.
And
turn off the news.
Yeah,
it's really sad. An older person that can't walk down the street and can't do things they like to do is, no matter how small a thing it was, if it's to walk to the corner store, and they don't do it.
Right.
They have their food left on the doorstep.
Well,
I see it all the time in the city. It's terrible.
When you have situations like out in California where they were ticketing people for riding bicycles, right? They did stuff like that, and it put this notion in people's heads, and it's not their fault. I used to, when this thing first came out, I'm sure all of us have done it. You get out of the truck, you go walking towards the store, you get to the front door and go, shit. And you gotta walk all the way back to the truck, get the mask, and people will look at you like, "Come on, man, just put the mask on." Don't. And I used to get agitated, like, "Leave me alone. I'll wear a mask if I want to wear a mask." But anymore, people, they're not. It's not their fault that they're afraid. You can't.
It's sad. It really is. It's sad.
Yeah. And there's plenty of reasons to be afraid. I just can't stand the people that don't have a good reason for it.
I'm not saying don't be careful. You have to be careful, and if you have issues, you have to be. But to not boat race, I don't care how close he gets to me. I'm going to hit him if he gets alongside of me. 6 feet or no 6 feet.
I got a longer reach.
He gets too close. I'm going to hit him.
You better be careful. We didn't paint that Phantom for a reason. Every race boat we ever had was purple and yellow. That one's white for a reason, Stanch. Don't worry. You might as well put a bullseye on your side of Howard's boat. But no, it's good, man. It's good. It's good to see. It's a lot. It's a lot of races, especially in a tough economy where a lot of people really felt the downtime last year. But we were so gun shy of, like, last year. We thought a couple were going to get canceled. We thought in bad, congested areas. We thought you wouldn't see. You definitely wouldn't see a Point Pleasant. You definitely wouldn't see But then when they started dropping like flies, man, even Lotto, when Lotto, who I think through the whole COVID thing, they probably fared the best. They had the best politics going on out of the whole country, and even they had to pull out. So it was a scary year. So, like, going into this one, we knew there was no way Offshore could take another dead year. So, we packed the schedule up planning on having some issues, and now it seems like it's lifting. And the cool part about it is we get to go to all these awesome places. Like, we're working on that East Lake, Ohio right now, and that's a new event to us. And we'll pick up some more teams. Like, I look at when we did Lotto, the notion before we went to Lotto for the first time, Lotto had boat racing for years prior. But for us, we went out there and ran that event the first time and picked up 4 or 5 teams, just because they had never seen boat racing before. Right. Mike Wright, that runs in the LPC boat, that was his first race. And, look at what's come of that. You have Lauren Peters and him and, that crazy double backflip him and his buddy Billy Allen staged, I think. I think they planned that. There's no way they did that on accident. That was too perfect.
Hit the flip button.
Travis Pastrana's got nothing on those guys. I hate to break it to him, man. He jumped over Geico. They double backflipped. I still give them more points. That was a crazy one, especially because that happens right there in front of the mall.
That was...
right there in front of the mall. It's just nuts, man. Thank God everybody crawled out of them boats all right and everything, that we could joke about it now. But, it's crazy. But that all came from running that silly race out in Lotto.
Yeah. I'm going to step out of here. I got a couple things to finish up outside. And I want to thank you, Pop.
Love you, buddy.
Yeah, love you too, man. We're looking forward to some stupid shit together. Thanks, Nick. Sam, good work over there. Okay, you guys wrap up. I got a couple things to do.
Thanks, Pop. Is he gone? Now that we got the riffraff out of here. Sheesh, who invited that guy? The boss man. Jesus. But, dude, I just want to say thanks for coming up and, spending a couple hours with
I
me,
think
man.
we're going to put a great year together. I really do. I think this year is going to be
Yeah.
a monster.
You know what's cool is you got the Pro Stock from the bracket class is up, right? You have the Pro Stock V class is strong right now. I mean, the Pro Stock V class, you're looking at most of the venues we go to, you're going to see, at least 5. You're going to see events with 10. So I'm really excited about that. You got the modified V class, which has been coming along nicely. You got JRA Boat Sales down there that's bringing a fleet to every event. You got Forehand in that Outer Limits. What a madman he is. You got Mikolos, who's been the standard bearer there for a long time. And now, if you go, from Pro Stock, you got Lily, who just built the first new Extreme out of the mold. Will be out for this year. There's so much good stuff happening in the small V class.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be, if you're a fan of Offshore, this is going to be a phenomenal year. It's you're going to see, like, Super Stock, you're going to see the strongest year they've ever had. There's, we were looking at it the other day. If every team from here to California made it to an event, there'd be 21 of them. That's pretty wild.
Crazy.
That's pretty wild, man. And then, you just keep going from there. I mean, you got Lily and Instigator that'll eventually, once Ed gets his strength back, and, you'll see that boat back out on the course without a doubt. And then that 450 factory stock class coming along with, there's one built that's being rigged, one in production, and one behind in line from that one. You'll see 3 or 4 of them throughout the course of the season. Super Stock, the AMH boat just got sold to MCon, went public today, and that's a great move for MCon. I mean, I feel for them guys. They took a swing with that big 40 that they built, the new one, and what's tough about that class is you have to try. Right, that class is so tight. That class is so competitive that you have to try things. And that boat just unfortunately didn't pan out for them.
It was just too big.
It's too big for the power. Yeah. I mean, it probably got the right speed numbers, but trying to get that big bitch around the course.
Getting around the course, even though you can get the speed numbers, it doesn't. It just becomes too hard.
Yeah, and you saw it when Performance tried with that MTI.
Right.
It was the same kind of setup there where, you run into, it's a point where the boat's just too much boat.
Yeah.
And they made the purchase on AMH, which I happen to know quite a bit about, because Ant spent so much time on it, and it's just such a good boat.
Yeah.
I'm hearing good things from the MCon team of their first couple runs, and they're really enjoying that boat, and they're going to be a barnstormer for this year. You watch some of those races in the old 40, in Moff's old 40, and those guys they're good. They're good, man. You know what I love about that team, and I'll always be a fan of MCon, because they fight. They fight like dogs. They could be in 6th place. You can't count them out.
They're always fighting for the front.
Yeah.
They don't give up.
My brother tells a story all the time. In Sarasota, they're running, and a bunch of boats had made contact in one of the turns. So him and Aaron it was their first year. They were taking it easy, just learning the boat. They were in the back. So they get through to Mayhem, and MCon was behind them. So they're coming down the backstretch. My brother says, I look out the window, I see a couple pickle forks. I look out the window, and I see bulkheads. I'm like, what the fuck? He looks, it's missing the whole side of the boat. MCon's coming by him. Like, where most of us would be like, let's take it back to the trailer. MCon's like, this ain't done, dude. They're good, man. I'm really, really excited to see the work they turn in with that 388. That's going to be bad. And just that paint scheme, man, that orange from Still, and I'm sure they'll change it up.
It's all good. It's going to be a good season.
It's going to be awesome. It is.
Really is.
It's going to be an awesome season. I'm just waiting to hear word, from the Class 1 guys. See what they can pull off for the season. It's tough. The COVID stuff, as far as travel restrictions, is still strong. So, those guys from New Zealand and, Wayne Valder from New Zealand and Pro Floors, who runs in Super Cat. But then you have, the 222 guys, the Victory guys. It's tough to do international travel right now, So I think in a month or so we'll have a much clearer picture on those teams, and I think you'll see him here if it's possible.
If it's possible, I think they'll try to make it. I really do. It's
Which I hope so, because man, I'd love to see Travis Pastrana run the Geico boat there in Morehead City was cool, because you always wonder when the superstars come, right? You see, like, you were around for Jason Priestley, right? And we all know how that ultimately worked out, And so you look at, like, Travis, and here's a guy, he's not a movie star. I mean, this guy...
He's just a talented
guy. He's probably one of the most talented wheelmen that ever lived, right? Yeah. And so you wonder, like, because this is going to be much different from anything he's ever done, but he's just a natural feel kind of guy. It seems like to me he can just get in anything and kind of figure it out. So to see him spin those hot laps with Curtis there in Moorhead, I mean, he was really putting on a show. So I was really excited to see what he could do up against those guys in Victory in 222. It's just a...
No, it would be awesome. It would,
Yeah.
See what happens.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen one day. You know what I mean? I don't know if that day will be tomorrow, but it's coming. It'd be good to see. I was watching on the way home from work the other day. I was watching one of the actually it was the Romania Class 1 championships. It was Romania, I think. And Curtis was in the Spirit of Norway number 10. And watching him run back then this is probably a 15-year-old race, but to watch him run against Sheikh Hassan in the 95 boat and the 96 boat, to see the 77 Victory there with its tag team partner there, and then to see the two Norway boats and Curtis.
That's cool. Right.
I'm really got my fingers crossed to see that come to the States, because you watch those race courses that they were on, and they were pretty big courses, which is cool because you get those cats stretched all the way out.
Yeah.
But what was awesome to me was like your Michigan cities, those long straightaways into those hairpin turns, because the talent level of those guys really shines through. I watched 222 in Victory. I'm sorry, 222. It's actually 222, not 222. 222 was about 2 or 3 boat lengths back from Victory coming into turn 1 inside, and those boys, they play by a different set of rules. And so Victory gets to the turn there and kind of just squares that first pin off. And 222, I don't know how many turns he made on that steering wheel, but it made it. They got up underneath them and made that turn. I'm like, man, these guys, and they're running. They're not playing it. They're running.
It's like they have bumper cars they just don't touch, but I never saw anything like it. It's
unreal. The only time I ever seen anything like that, do you remember the move that Scotty B and Mark Granite?
That was, they gave him a penalty. They should have gave him an award. I never saw
that. To me,
that was one of the finest moves I've ever seen in all the racing I've been in.
Oh shit, it doesn't work. Well, I'll try and put it in the podcast.
I can't believe he got penalized for that all my life.
Dude,
I just want to make one turn like that.
Well, and that was fast. And that wasn't Class 1. That was back with the 1650s. That was 180, 185 mile an hour coming into the harbor.
It was amazing.
Geico put a move on Bob Bull and CMS that I have never seen a bracket class team try before. I mean, they came in at probably every bit of 130, 140 at the buoy and cranked that thing around and made it underneath.
It was unbelievable.
Man, that was just unreal.
It's one of the finest moves I've ever seen in racing.
Absolutely. It's a damn shame that they got a penalty for that.
I can't. What are you thinking, giving them a penalty? I never saw anything like it in my life.
That would have been on every one of my racing promos. That was just unbelievable. But, we're getting back to that. You see... the unlimited class for so many years was not necessarily competitive racing.
Right.
It was kind of like the big guys needed somewhere to go stretch their legs. Right. And you, for years you had your Bob Bull, your David Scotts, where these guys were untouchable. And then, you got a glimpse, like, remember that year in St. Clair, my old man put Geico up against Dave Scott?
Yeah.
That was, to me, the best boat race I've ever seen. Yeah. That was 12 laps of deck-to-deck 200-mile-an-hour racing. And they were racing. Yeah. I mean, Bob Bull was trying to, or not Bob Bull, I'm sorry, Dave Scott was trying to run them into the wall. I mean, they were doing everything to try to get rid of Geico, and they couldn't get rid of them, I think Geico actually legged them on the last lap and got them.
After I told Mark and Scotty, you guys keep doing this. You're not going to die of natural causes.
Right.
And you can't do that. You
Right.
can't. I mean, you did it and got away with it. That's not how this sport works.
Nah, man.
That was crazy.
That was wild.
It was Dave Scott, and they were running legitimately running 200 mile an hour.
Yeah. Well, I remember Dave being real upset about it after the race because I guess he had a set of super 1700s or something back then, but he had the 1550s in it for the poker run. Whatever the deal was, he didn't have his real power in the boat, and he was upset because he could have broke that 200 number or whatever, where Geico was getting that 192, 193.
Right.
But it's just crazy to see two boats that tight together at that rate of speed. You don't see that.
No.
I have a really good memory of watching Big Thunder race against Bacardi Silver, and I don't remember. We were in Florida. I want to say it was St. Pete for some reason, years and years ago. It was a world championship. JT was running Bacardi Silver with Dave Scott, and Big Thunder was out in front. At the time, they were running the Skater with the 4 engines
With the
in
four
it.
motors, right.
So it was actually quite comical. So Big Thunder would get way out in front, right? You'd see him go down and the engine hatches come up, right? You'd see Bacardi Silver come around them, get about halfway down the straightaway, and they'd break down, and the engine hatches would go up. Big Thunder would get running and get by them, and they'd break down. And this went on for 6 or 7 laps, and what it was none of them could keep the blower belts on the motors. And it's like that was
They were the monsters. I had the monster motors.
yeah, you know what, too, you missed from that is, do you remember the days of standing on the docks and holding your ears when those guys would come by?
See, that's my problem with the new boats with the 15.
You can't hear them.
You can't hear them.
No, it's like, it's not.
I actually like the Super Cats better because you hear the noise, you hear the
You need
thunder.
it.
You need that thunder.
Yeah.
Because, listen, I've been in a boat. Nobody knows how fast you're going. It's the noise. Unless you're in the boat,
Right.
you don't know whether it's 150 or 200.
I've always said this, and times have changed and technology's gotten better, and yada yada yada. But I always said that racing stops at 150. You know what I mean? Once you're running 140, 145, you can race a boat. Once you start running that 155, 160 number, and plus from there, you're not really racing. You're flying an airplane. But you watch these guys come by back then, with the Y pipes and dude, there was nothing like it.
See,
Now,
and I believe it's a spectator sport. And my heart beats fast when I hear that. No, it's a spectator sport.
Yeah.
You're not here to impress
Well-
anybody else. If you want to impress them, let them hear the thunder.
and what
I mean,
I've always said, you can't race at those rates of
No.
speed. You can't make
No.
moves. You can't set up. You can't use your judgment. Things are happening too fast. And really, the fans don't know the difference from.
don't know the difference.
They don't know the
I don't know
difference.
the difference, and I've been in the boat. I don't know the difference.
Right.
You actually think that the Super Cats are faster than the Unlimiteds,
Right.
because you hear the thunder when they come by. The ground shakes, and
Right.
when they go by zzz, like that, there's no noise. It's like,
Yeah,
where are
it's
they
cool
going?
because they're coming by at such a high rate of speed, but you miss that noise, man.
Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah, when they come by and the ground shaking under you, and they're banging and hitting the limiters, and that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's cool, man. But so anyway, we got a lot to edit here because of my technical difficulties. I apologize for that. It won't happen again. I just want to thank you, Johnny, for coming in, man. Johnny Stanch, driver of,
Good to be here.
or throttleman of Strictly Business, and what's the name on the side of Howard's now? It's been through a couple of them.
Howard's been changed, and I don't know. I don't know what he's going to come up with.
It's been through a couple of them,
He's
man.
got- I believe. I'm not going to say anything.
I know per conversation a couple months ago he had a sponsor lined up and stuff, so I don't know particularly what the name is on the side of it, but
I don't know what it's going to be this year. It's the company he works with,
Right.
Bueller. I believe that's what he's going to have.
one thing you can count on is looking at my transom a lot, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Thanks, everybody.